The planet is restless, Captain. They want their podcast, and they shall have it. I'll beam down to the surface. You have the bridge. Captain, that is illogical. These are Trek fans. They will challenge and dissect your knowledge with great emotion. It is a mission fraught with danger, peril, and grave risk. Suggestions? Send in the Red Shirts.
Are you ready for the full Red Shirts review of Star Trek Picard? Then stay tuned. And we're back, guys.
Hey.
We're back on the bridge. You guys, you're not rusty. I hope you remember all your positions, right? You remember all your functions and all that.
Nope.
If I'm not mistaken, Craig and I have taken over the ship.
That's right.
Well, no. Big Sexy, you're at the Wesley Crusher position.
Oh, hell no.
After he became a full ensign. And Craig, I don't know if I want you standing behind me after that comment you made offline about seeing some certain materials on my desktop when we were screen sharing.
Did that say something about you or me? That's right.
Yeah. Hashtag striking vipers. Okay, anyway, moving forward.
Wow.
Big Sexy will get that reference. Black Mirror, check it out. All right, so we have gathered here today. That sounds like a reverend, not a captain. Okay. We're assembled here today for a couple reasons. We have some, I just got a secure channel transmission from Admiral Nechayev. And we need to do a review of Star Trek Picard, focusing on the finale. We've had some people request, because I put out a review, in all transparency. I put out a solo review just last night on YouTube. And I got a couple people saying, hey, where's the rest of the crew? So I was like, well, who needs them? I mean, what I really said was, you're right. I need to bring them on board. So let's talk about Star Trek Picard. But before we go into that, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because there's not really much content to discuss, did you all see the teaser for the new season of Discovery?
That wasn't much of a teaser.
That's true. Craig,
Yeah.
did you see it?
I saw it, yes. I saw it. It gave us very vague information, but not much.
So she's standing on a desolate planet, like a desert planet, and she's planting a flag of the Federation that's in tatters. I'm not sure what to make of that. Does that mean that the Federation is well, I guess it was in tatters when we finished the season 1, right?
They're so far flung to the future, right?
Yeah, so does that mean that she's planting a flag 1,000 years in the future, that the Federation is taking control of it? Of this planet?
So then, with that premise, they'll have to be on a location that there is no Federation, that's never heard of any Federation, outside of Federation territory. So they got to be like the Epsilon Quadrant or some shit like that.
So they're the Empire. They are
Pretty much.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I got from it as well, from the other sequences, is that people were talking about how her badge was believing in ghosts. So it sounded almost like people had lost faith that the Federation even existed, and she was trying to keep that alive.
I'm not with this whole deconstructing the Federation. It's deconstructing the ideals of Star Trek to me. I really don't like that. And she's got really long hair. I think she looks beautiful, but it takes me back to the scene in Star Trek 2. I think you know where I'm going. Where Kirstie Alley's, what was her name? Saavik jumps into the turbo lift, and Captain Kirk says, "You're wearing your hair differently." And she says, "It's within Starfleet protocol," or something like that, which tells regulation, which it didn't look like it was. But I don't know. I like the hair, but not for someone in Starfleet. Or maybe it's because they're 1,000 years in the future, and
because there is no Starfleet where they are.
Well, how do we know that? We just know she's in the future. We don't know she's in a part of the galaxy where Starfleet where the Federation doesn't exist.
It seemed
But
like
if
it
the-
from the clips, right?
And if she's flying our flag, there's no Starfleet wherever she is,
Okay. Well,
unless
They
it's
win.
in a contested area.
well, I will say this: as much as I hated season 2, the questions we're raising will make me at least watch the first 2 episodes to see what the hell that was all about. Now, it could have just been an anachronistic or apocryphal pose for the teaser, just to give us an image, So who knows? But all right, unless anyone has anything else they want to contribute to that, we will move on. All right, we're moving on. Okay, Star Trek Picard. Let's just jump right into it. How many of you saw the entire series? All 10 episodes?
Yep, I saw it.
Okay, good. All right. So I want to talk about how we received the finale, and if you want to express yourself in terms of broader issues about the entire series, feel free. I'm going to start with Craig J. Your thoughts on the finale, on the series overall?
And I'll start by excusing my quality of my audio, but we had some little technical issues. So I'm using my AirPods, which is not exactly good material.
You're using your tricorder.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, work with me.
Okay, this finale. Well, I just wanted to say we have spoken about some of the things that we don't like about Picard, like Patrick Stewart sounding like he's dying all the time.
Wow.
Wow. But I mean, he kept it up. He acted well. I didn't like the character with the samurai sword. I just felt like he was out of place throughout the whole series, just unneeded. Even at the end,
you're talking about Elnor,
right? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Elnor
so insignificant. I didn't remember his name, but you know what I mean. He was just like a loose part of the show, not really needed. I thought I was going to hate the idea that they resurrected Picard, turned him into a synth. But actually, I thought about it, and I wasn't actually really that mad about it. The part that really made me annoyed was the silly device that the synths give the crew to fix their ship by just thinking about how to fix it. I just thought,
Yeah, that was bullshit.
they could have just done that whole thing a lot better. Just like what is that? That was just stupid. But otherwise, you know what? I enjoyed it.
It's called a plot device. That's what that piece of equipment was called. Plot device.
Sure, it was, but they could have thought of a better one, like something that may be based in science.
Oh no, I'm supporting your argument. That's all it was a plot device. That's why they did not expound upon that device at all.
Yeah, it's almost like the writers had written the whole thing where the ship crashes, but they hadn't figured out how to make it get repaired in one episode. So they just since give them like this magic tool. But I liked the way it ended. I also did not like the sort of reference to the hell with these strange looking crafts coming through the wormhole looking like worms. I just thought that was just unnecessary and not based in science. So there you go. That's my little brief in a nutshell. Thoughts.
Well, talk about some of the themes, if you will. This show was billed as Picard has undergone a fundamental change as a result of the destruction of the Romulan Empire, the planet Romulus. So we see a totally different Picard than what we're used to, and it's his journey and all that type of stuff. Do you think that came across, or what are your thoughts about that? Because that's how they presented this show, and how Patrick Stewart himself presented the show and the character. What are your thoughts about that?
I think they somewhat achieved that because obviously he's not on the Enterprise. He's not in control of the ship. He's not in command of the ship. Somebody else is. He's just along for the ride. So yes, his role was greatly diminished, and they wouldn't let him do any sort of official Starfleet stuff. So you had to do it out of band, so to speak. But then when he got together with his old crewmates, that was the old Picard back again. And also when he interacts with Data, it again was the old Picard back again. So I'm not sure what to think about that. They maybe got it half right.
I didn't care for that one portion where she handed the little doohickey to repair the ship. Well, just think about it. That was bullshit. That aside, I enjoyed it, and I think we need the Eleanor Rigby guy to
Wait, stop.
What?
Is that... Are you like Donald Trump when you give a nickname to everybody?
I like the song.
It's one of my favorite Beatles songs. I will admit that. I love the violin or the string instruments on that song.
Yeah.
But you call my man Eleanor Rigby. It's funny. But, okay, go ahead.
Great song.
Go ahead.
And you need him because you don't have Worf. And with Picard being at such an advanced age, he's not going to be mixing it up with anybody. So you need somebody to protect him wherever he goes. That's Eleanor. I also caught at the end, it looks like the status quo is going to be Raffi, the captain. What's that guy's name?
Rios,
Picard, 7 of 9. And I think they're taking Agnes with her. I don't like Agnes.
I don't either.
She killed Masters. She's got to go. She didn't pay for it.
You mean Maddox, Bruce Maddox.
Maddox.
Right.
She killed Maddox and got away with it. And I'm not with that. I did catch the little hand-holding with Seven and Raffi. That may indicate some things down the line we don't know. But I like how they wrapped it up and set up the status quo for the next season.
Okay, so I'll ask you the same question because I really want to dig deep into this. What did you think about what the show purported to be in terms of an exploration of this new Picard as a result of the Romulus destruction of Romulus, and him having to explore a new journey, being an altered Picard? What did you think about that? How did you?
Well, I didn't really understand the destruction of Romulus until that one episode where the reporter ambushed him with all that information. And at the risk of sounding like an old Trek head, okay, Romulus got destroyed. So what?
Well, wait. Now, see, I think you're conflating two events. And it's interesting that you do that because I completely understand because this, and I'm starting to reveal my thoughts about the finale. And I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm going to let you finish. Hold that thought. But the destruction of Romulus was a totally different incident than the destruction of that the Synths did to I think it was Planotia. Was that Utopia Planitia?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, according to the press materials in advance of the show, they were saying that it was the destruction of Romulus, which happened in Star Trek 2009, the Kelvin 2009 movie, that was the impetus for Captain Picard being having to explore new territory, that he's a different Picard, not the destruction of Utopia Planitia, which made no sense to me. So
let's face it, the Kelvin universe doesn't count anyway.
Well, they made it count. Whether I think it's bullshit or not, it seems to me the argument would be that the destruction by the sense of Utopia Planitia would be the one that incensed Picard to become a different man. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I think they missed out on opportunity here. They brought back Maddox. They also could have brought back that one woman doctor who created the exocoms. Because she was all about, in the middle of that whole discussion of, are these sentient life forms?
Awesome. You're right. You're 100% agree.
They could have brought her back in. But again, these are Romulans. Now, I'm not saying all Romulans ain't shit. I'm not saying that at all. But these are Romulans who have been nothing except sinister, backbiting motherfuckers. And Romulus got destroyed. Okay, fine. But putting them all on that discarded cube was a recipe for disaster. And then you have the Romulans playing, houseboy to Picard. I didn't like that at all.
That seemed weird. It did seem weird.
Yeah, I didn't get into that.
But if you're talking about bringing back scientists who could add to the theme of whether something is alive or not, that's an excellent suggestion. I remember that alien, the alien woman scientist, because that's one of my favorite. It was called Quality of Life. That was the episode.
Yep.
There was another episode that I just recently watched on my Blu-rays. I think it was season 2. Yeah, it was season 2. It was the episode where Wesley accidentally leaves an experiment of nanites running.
Yes.
What was it called? I forget the name of it. And there was this older doctor who tried to kill him.
And he also played the chief on Scrubs. Oh, yes.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
They
should have killed his ass.
But I love how he humbled himself when the nanites took over Data, and he said, "I am at your mercy." I was like, okay, cool. They could have brought him back, but you raised a great point. And they also could have brought back the commander, the admiral, who wanted to confiscate Lal.
Yes.
And he could have been like, "No, you can't do this. I learned from my mistakes." These so much untapped material.
Again, only 10 episodes, only season 1. And one thing that caught me the most on this episode was seeing Riker and Troy. That brought that emotional resonance that we just don't get in Discovery because they don't have that lineage. And so when they did that made all the difference in the world to me. I don't need to see him every week, but it was good to see Riker in that role again.
Craig, what did you think about that? That was the one episode, I don't remember the names of any of these episodes, but it was the one episode kind of in the midway point of the series where we see Picard reunite with Riker and Troy. They have a daughter.
Yes, they did.
And apparently they had a son who died from a disease, which is why they went to that particular planet, which I think was dangerous with some sort of wildlife, which is why he had to raise shields on his house. That was pretty dope, though. What did you think about that reunion?
I enjoyed the reunion episode. I know that it's cheesy and they were just bringing in characters to make us old Star Trek fans feel the warm and fuzzy, but I thought they did a good job of it. I also wanted to make a point that, going back to my thoughts about Picard now being a synth, it's a storyline that was really taken from one of William Shatner's books. They almost used it word for word because, well, not word for word, but like what they did in William Shatner's book is his very first book that he wrote together with somebody else was called The Return.
Okay.
It tells the story of how Kirk is resurrected after dying on Viridian 3. And they tell the story like this. They say that he gets beamed up out of the grave and he gets taken to a planet and they use Borg technology to resurrect him. And he is essentially a synth. So that's how his books are written, is that it's Kirk, but he's been resurrected from when he died on Viridian 3. So they did the same thing in his book, and they did the same thing with Picard. Picard died naturally, and they scanned his brain substrates and recreated him. So it's interesting. It's the same story, but it's cool though.
So, does that mean that in the book, the Kirk, what is it called, The Return?
The Return, yeah.
And likewise with what we see with what happens to Picard. And by the way, who the hell couldn't have predicted that an hour or 45 minutes into the story? But anyway, so does that mean Picard has access ports in his head like Data? Or is there these new synths on this planet? Are they machines like Data was, or are they a different brand?
I got the impression they were a different brand when they're using, because I think they eat and drink and everything, whereas Data did not. So I think they're the next level. They look human, but I'm pretty sure there's probably ports in them somewhere, right? It's got to be.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start to kind of go into my feelings. I didn't like it. I didn't like the finale. I thought it was the biggest piece of shit to come out of the Kurtzman writing room yet.
Well, Kurtzman's a tool. We all know that.
But okay. So this is his staff. This was the worst thing that has come out of his Star Trek vision yet. I think it was worse than anything I saw in Discovery Season 2, and I hated Season 2. Let me start from small to large. We're talking about Picard now. What was the need to do that where he dies at the very end, and we spend 10 minutes, roughly 10 minutes of people crying, him having a chat with Data, only to bring him back? Why was that necessary? What does that gain? How does that gain the story? How does it make sense? Now, unless Kurtzman is a f***ing genius, and I need to give him more time, because Picard becoming a synth is going to have a resonance in Season 2, which I'm sure it will not. But what was the point of doing that? It reminded me of in Season 2. Remember the character? It was a female character. She looked like a cyborg, and she got blown. We never got to know who she was. Everybody wanted to know who she was because she looked visually. She looked very interesting. She got blown out of an airlock, and I thought that was so ridiculous that they did that. They just killed her instead of trying to come up with another way to solve the problem. And in the episode following that, we get 5 minutes of people crying and saying a eulogy to her, which means nothing because we didn't get to know her. Why do they do that in kind of like reverse here, where we see everybody mourning Picard, and then, oh, well, wait, here's another scene. Hang on. Here's a scene where he's with Data in a simulation that we don't know where it came from. And Data tells him, well, no, you're in that other body now, sir. You're not dead. And then we cut, and he comes out of the thing. Why?
I think that the crying scenes were completely unnecessary, because why would those characters not know that they were standing right there? How would they not know that Picard had been taken to a room and they were trying to scan his brain substrates? That was just crazy. I think it was done to evoke emotion from us and then surprise us. I didn't mind Picard talking to Data. I thought that was quite intriguing, that Data has been sitting in that simulation, and of course we don't know if he's been sitting there all those years or not. I don't, it's never really said, but to me it felt like he had been there all that time, which is why he wanted to die.
All what time? From the end of Nemesis?
Or something.
Well, how did that happen?
I don't know. They don't explain how that's happened.
Well, see, Craig, and I'm venting. I'm not directing this towards you. But I'm sick and tired of people, not you necessarily, I'm sick and tired of people making excuses for this slipshod, incompetent writing by saying, well, they don't explain it. And then we just move on. That's not how you write a story. That's not storytelling. I am not getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to fill in your script. Okay? I don't accept that. First of all, at the end of Nemesis, he was blown to bits inside of the ship. Okay? There's no way. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they found some portion of Data that they were able to regenerate these new synths, or Dodge and Soji or whatever. He was destroyed. So where did this simulation come from? Now, if I accept the fact that they did find a fragment of Data, they may have put him in a simulation while they were making these other androids based off of his positronic whatever. But why don't they explain that? I shouldn't have to fill that in. Just like you say with the, we don't know until the last half of the series. Well, what's going to happen? See, what happens is there's this admonition, and we have these synths on this planet, but then there's other synths on another planet somewhere that wiped off all organic life in this galaxy, the Star Trek galaxy. No records of that in Starfleet, though. No records of that anywhere in the Federation. That's why I hate it when they set up these story points that you would think, well, you shouldn't do that if it did not have any bearing in what we've seen before. You follow what I'm saying? There's no way you wouldn't know that all organic life in a galaxy was destroyed if it's the same galaxy where we've set TNG, Voyager, DS9, so on and so forth. So that's stupid to begin with right there. But then you convolute by saying, okay, we sent these synths over here to this planet, but now there's another race of synths somewhere in another dimension that created this table and put it on this planet, and somehow the organics managed to drag 8 suns around it. Get the out of here with that bullshit. Are you serious?
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
How do you
How do
drag?
they do that?
I mean, okay. There's a classic TNG episode called Relics. You all know it. The one where Scotty comes back.
Yeah.
And they come across a Dyson sphere. Now, that stretched the limits of itself, where someone builds a sphere around a solar system. That was probably the most implausible I think TNG has ever gotten. Although we do see that same concept in Interstellar, and I think we see it in what was that Matt Damon movie where he's in the future and it's a dystopian future. Oh, Jodie Foster was in it. Anybody remember what I'm talking about?
Was that First Contact?
No. It was
It was called Contact, isn't it?
No. It was a Matt Damon film. It came out maybe 5 years ago with Jodie Foster, sci-fi film. They had that same concept where you build around an energy source. Okay, I can't. That's gonna drive me nuts now. I didn't like the movie, but so that stretched the limits in Berman TNG, but dragged 8 suns. They dragged 8 suns around the planet. So now these suns are orbiting the planet. What planet has a dense enough gravity well that's going to maintain 8 suns? Let alone how do you drag it? This is what I don't like about this writing. They need things to happen, so they just say, well, this is what they did. And we never really see what the conflict is. We're always kind of hinted at, we get Narek saying, well, we had, this is my bad British accent. There were 2 daemons. One of them would beat a drum made of human children's skin, and the other one was the Seb Janeb, and she would, all this bullshit in the last episode. We're hearing all this bullshit now. And so we never really get a sense of what the conflict is. The conflict always changes. And now she's building a beacon using holographic Jenga blocks. And that's the only reason she's a destroyer, because apparently for whatever reason, she's the only one that can play Jenga and build this fucking beacon that creates a hole that has these tentacles come out. Where does that come from? It's like, no, it's not defined, so they can just throw anything out there. You were talking about that tool that I don't even remember what it was called, but you think about something and it happens. Can you think of a more Deus Ex Machina device than that? So,
and how about what you didn't address is they learn basically on the same day that they can contact these other synths, and they somehow immediately understand how to build a computer and an antenna to do that. How do they learn that in a day?
How did those Romulan women, what the Vashkanash, what do they call? Oshkosh Bagash?
Oh, Lord.
First of all, how do you navigate through 8 suns? Okay. How do you do that? And they get on this planet, and I would think a planet with 8 suns. I mean, Mercury. There's a reason Mercury is in hospital for life, because it's close to the sun. Yet we got a planet with 8 suns, and humanoid life can survive on it for some reason. And there's oxygen. The suns haven't burned off all the oxygen and nitrogen. But damn it, I'm being a Trekkie, and I'm using logic and common sense and pseudoscience. I'm sorry, people. They stick their hands into this table, and it drives people crazy that don't understand what they're saying. So these organics have a funny way of drawing people to this planet so they know what to look out for this warning. So we want to warn you that that synthetics are bad, but for you to see the warning, you got to get through 8 suns, and you got to put your hands on this table and hope you don't go crazy and kill yourself. That plan is about as good as taking data or creating a data, splitting them up, putting him on a planet near the edge of the Romulan neutral zone, and hoping the Enterprise goes near the neutral zone to pick up the positronic signal to go to the planet and then get on a doom buggy and find Data. That did happen too, people.
Yeah. Mark, you're being very quiet. Come on. Say something.
Yeah, Mark.
I'm listening to the rant.
Well, am I wrong? Where's the lie?
You know, you're not wrong, but a lot of these things, again, Kurtzman's an idiot. That's a given. But it's also only 10 episodes, season 1.
Stop it, Mark.
I know. I'm prepared to give him a little bit of slack. Now they've set it all up for the future. Let's see where it goes. But there are a lot of holes in here. You mentioned season 2 of Next Generation. I was thinking how cool it would have been. I'm going to go way back on this one. To reintroduce the Packlids from season 2.
Oh my God! Why would you do that?
Because they were great. They were great.
How would they figure into this story?
Because they're stupid.
You know what I would. If you're going to introduce the Packlids into, what I would have liked to have seen as a flashback to, maybe they are the first race to find that planet, and they try to go through the suns. Oh, our ship don't work. We're burning up. And the Romulans happen to catch that. Like, look at these motherfuckers. What the is that all about?
Our ship won't go.
Big Sexy. I don't know, and Craig, I'll address this to you too. I don't know. Big, you seem to have accepted it. I refuse to.
Rejection.
Well, no. Let me just say what I'm. Let me put it out there. And I'm not judging you for it. I can't do it. This thing where, it was just the first season. Let's see what happens in the second season. We did that with the whole X-Men franchise. We did that with we did that with the whole Superman, Man of Steel into Justice League. Well, the reason he's not acting like Superman is because he doesn't learn his powers yet. He's getting used to his powers. He's going to be the Superman we're used to in Batman v Superman. That didn't work out. Oh, well, he's still learning his powers and Batman pissed him off. So we're not really seeing so they set it up so that when we see Justice League, we'll see the real Superman. We saw Superman whooping all their asses. We're not the real Superman yet. We got the real Superman at the last 20 minutes of Justice League. Whereas, let me just say, when I turned off that piece of garbage finale and I put in my Blu-ray TNG discs, which I highly recommend that you buy, okay? There's some great extra footage on that and deleted scenes and additional footage, right? And commentary tracks. So I'm watching all of the TNG episodes, and I was at the episode Sarek. And if you remember that episode, the great, iconic Mark Leonard appears as Sarek, I think for the last time, I believe. I could be wrong about that. And Picard has to absorb all of his emotions while Sarek chairs a negotiation between the Ligarans and the Federation, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
From the first frame to the last frame, they set everything up and they paid everything off. It wasn't this bullshit about, oh, well, that was just that episode. That's why it didn't seem all right. It didn't seem like it worked well. It's because they set everything up for the next episode. That one episode was better in terms of writing, plotting, acting, character development, characters doing what they're supposed to do and being true to themselves. It was better than anything in that 1 hour that I saw in the 10 hours of Picard. The 10 hours of Picard. Picard's 10 hours could have been cut way down to 2 hours. You could have gotten rid of the whole Borg cube thing. You could have gotten rid of Elnor. You could have gotten rid of the whole thing where they're gruesomely extracting Borg implants from XBs. I hate saying XBs. That sounds like a millennial term.
I hate it too. I hate that.
You could definitely get rid of the whole episode where Picard wears an eye patch.
Oh yeah, right.
Terrible.
Yes, and you could also get rid of the fact that Picard, a Frenchman, I'm going to go off on this diatribe. Picard, who is a Frenchman, speaks with an English accent.
But that's always been the case.
I know. And, I've justified that by saying, well, maybe in the 24th century, in the 23rd century, there's been so much migration with a war. Apparently there was some sort of World War III. And Englishmen migrated into France and had families and blah, blah, blah. And so maybe most of France, a lot of France, has an English accent. Well, but then when we see Picard speaking an French accent, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then why doesn't he speak in a French accent the whole time? Just little details like that, people.
Well, again,
why is he a pirate?
Oh, yeah.
Why is he a pirate wearing a patch?
It's all coming from Kurtzman being a tool. He doesn't have the Berman people, for whatever reason, involved. I don't know why. And he's using his own ego, and people are giving him this free reign to do this, and he's f***ing it up. So I will admit that I am making concessions because it's not the writing team that we all know.
Okay.
Now, if this was Berman putting out this type of product, I would be all up in his kitchen. I would. Because we know he can do better. Now, again, I don't know why he's not there. I don't know if he told them no or they didn't come to him. I don't know. But Kurtzman is not the answer here.
So it sounds like you're saying you're taking the position of the teacher who realizes she's in a special ed school, and so she gives more allowances. I know that's not politically correct.
I was going to say, send your mail to Q-Storm.
Oh, and let me just say this. The whole thing about Riker, Picard, Data, Troy making appearances, I want to be honest with you. They did nothing for me. Nothing.
Whoa.
I'll explain why. Because I knew not that I knew. It felt like, as I predicted was going to be the case, it felt like filler. It didn't seem organic. It didn't seem natural. It just seemed like, let's throw this out there to eat up an hour's time so we can fill this 10-episode package. Okay? That's what it felt like to me. Okay? Now, if you remember, I don't know if there are any Curb Your Enthusiasm fans here. But when they did great. When Larry David did season 7, where there was a Seinfeld reunion, I felt something with that, even though it's a comedy, because these are iconic characters, 4 iconic characters that we see on screen again, and that did something to me, and it was motivated because Larry simply wanted to get Cheryl back, and he wanted to do a reunion show, Seinfeld reunion show, to impress Cheryl and give her a part in the show so she would come back. Works. Here, all it was, okay, we got to run and hide for a little bit. Let's go to see Riker and Troy. And that's all that was. You guys happy? Are you Trek fans happy? You got them back. Okay, let's move on with the story such as it is. The whole scene with Data, I felt nothing, and I'll tell you why. To me, it ruined what I thought. Now, again, we've all understand that I liked the last half of Nemesis. First half was garbage. I liked the last half. When Data sacrifices himself for Picard and blows up, leave it there. Leave me with that. Let me have that. Let me have the scene where they hold up a glass and they drink and Troy starts crying, although, making the woman cry, I don't know if that was stereotypical, I thought. Well, she is an empath, though. But you hold up your glass and you tink the glasses. And I love the fact that Riker said, his last line of that scene, Riker says, I remember he was whistling a tune. I can't remember that tune. And we cut. I love that. That's all. Then you ruin it by putting Data, who's Brent Spiner's got to be in his late 60s now, who looks horrendous in the makeup now. He looks scary in that makeup now. In the simulation. That doesn't have any resonance for me. Because I haven't seen Data. Data was just a plot device to set up Dodge, Sozi, all this other crap. So then to give that to me at the end, it doesn't mean anything. It's not a payoff for anything. There's nothing emotional about it. Even seeing Data grow old, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to cry now. All right.
No, I agree because I didn't even see Data again either. I really didn't. I was done with him.
Data played no part in the story other than just a plot device to just a point to get us to where we understand why Dodge and Sozi were created. That's it. You know. Okay, so now, Craig, go ahead.
I don't disagree with you guys. I really don't. But for me, I really did like seeing Data come back, and am imagining that he has been in the simulation all this time, or however many years that is, and that he felt something and he wanted to end his life. He was tired of it now. It's just in my nature. I mean, I would, as you know, watch any show where Captain Kirk comes back, because I want to see Captain Kirk again.
I would watch that show too, because it would be a train wreck, I think.
I mean, William Shatner. No, but the thing is that William Shatner hasn't lost his voice like Patrick Stewart has.
That's true. That's true. Yep.
Yeah, he could do it. He could do it, right? He wouldn't be the action character, but he would be an older Kirk. But I would watch it because I enjoyed the characters of Star Trek, and so just to get a last gasp with that same character again, just means something.
I'm curious, not to go too much into detail, but with the Kirk that you want to see again, would he be dead per the Star Trek universe, or would he be alive per the novel?
I would say he'd be alive per the novel.
Now, see, I wouldn't go with that, because they would need to spend some time explaining how he came back to life.
Sure, I mean they could do that in an episode, right? I mean,
but why spend all that, and he's just a background character?
No, he wouldn't be a background character. He would be one of the main characters, but they would need to explain how he came back to life for sure.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying that's just me, and I probably say this too much to a lot of people, that I always thought that Lost, most of it was so well written and it just grabbed me. Those characters, they wrote those characters so well, and you really felt for them and you wanted to see more of them.
Wait, which characters are you talking about?
Lost, the TV show.
Oh, Lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hated that show.
Lost to me was epic. I've never seen a show like it before, and that's why it just grabbed me so much. And that's why I didn't want Lost to end, because I wanted to see more of that story. I wanted to see more of those characters interacting with each other. Same with the original series. The ones that are still alive, can we have them back together, please?
All right. Well,
that's my take.
I know we have limited time, so I'm going to get off of the original series. But your point is well taken. So I'm just going to rapid fire some things that I want to get your take. Seeing Riker on the bridge, I thought that was pathetic. I thought it was pathetic because I know you're laughing because I know you think I'm a Grinch. I know that's what you're thinking. But you being an attorney, I hope you appreciate that I at least lay out my case. Whether you agree with me or not, I lay out a case. The set looked cheap. Riker could have been sitting in a folding chair for all we know. We had no scope of this big badass starship. And why is the flagship of the Enterprise now the Zheng Jie or whatever it was called, and it's not the Enterprise? Why don't we see a wide shot where we see the ship as opposed to what looks like just Riker sitting in a chair with some lights behind him? Why isn't he on?
If it's the Enterprise, that opens up a whole new can of worms and questions that need to be answered that aren't going to be answered in this show.
Okay, then why not the Titan? Why wouldn't he be on the Titan? That was his ship at the end of Nemesis. Why is the flagship the Zheng Jie, whatever ship he's on?
Because he's not on full active duty.
No. But the Enterprise is the flagship of the Federation. He referred to the ship that he was on as the flagship. I didn't like that.
Flagship or the most powerful ship?
He said flagship.
I totally understand what you're saying, Mike. I mean, I agree with you that, first of all, the ship had an awkward name to say. It sounded like he had to practice it a few times. The bridge looked like it was completely CGI.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yep.
He was just sitting, like you said, he was just sitting on a chair, and they built the thing around him. Like I said, the nostalgia in me enjoyed seeing him back, but I would have loved to have that been the Enterprise F or whatever one number they've got up to now. Whatever letter they got up to.
And okay,
that opens up a whole can of worms, though.
I think you have a point, Big Sexy. I do. That's why I would be okay seeing him on the Titan. Okay, here's another one. Why does he say right before they go into battle, Oh, he says a couple things I don't understand. He says the planet Gullion 4, that's the planet that the synths were abandoned to, I guess, or whatever, banished to. He says it's under the protection of Starfleet. Huh? I thought all planets were under the protection of the Federation, not Starfleet. Starfleet is just an arm that explores and, if necessary, goes into battle. That's one. And two, why does he say, okay, red alert, deflectors to full? Deflectors to full? We all know that the deflector dish is in the front of the starship, and it's the dish that has a multitude of functions, but one of them is not to repel or absorb energy blasts from photon torpedoes or phasers. So why does he say deflectors to full?
Yeah,
and
that was weird.
Stupid. And it's why I am disappointed. I'm going to say I'm disappointed in Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes, because they were, now Jonathan Frakes has always been kind of uneven to me. He's had great moments as an actor, some way less convincing to me as an actor throughout the years.
The nipple show.
Well,
nipple
yeah,
show.
okay, there's that one. Also, the episode where he says to the one where he's in a simulation and it's all by this little alien who's lonely.
Yeah.
And he says to Picard, he says, I want you to shut up. Remember, he does that. He says that to Picard, as in, shut your mouth. No one remembers that scene?
I remember that.
Okay.
I remember it.
So I'm disappointed in the two of them, because at no point, and I read a story that claimed that Stewart was in the writer's room for some of this. Why didn't they ever stop and say, wait a minute, guys, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Why wouldn't they say, I would never talk like this? Why didn't Stewart say, I would never tell an admiral you're a waste of space? Picard would never say that. Why wouldn't Frakes say, Riker would never say, I'd be happy to kick your tall Shi'ar ass. That's not Riker. That's John Wayne.
So, Mike, I totally
Shatner.
agree with you. And if you watch some of the behind the scenes or interviews with the original series crew when they talk about the movies, the cast of characters specifically say on camera how they corrected the writers and corrected the set designers about no, to do that you have to press this button and pull this lever, and because the writers were just like yeah do this. But in this show, with Picard, they just seem to like forget all that stuff and say, yeah, deflectors to full. What does that even mean? I'll just say it anyway. But the original series guys were like, no. Sulu doesn't do that. He does this. You have to do that. Press this button. And they sort of cared more about it, and they remembered what they did, and they said, no, it doesn't work like that. But I wish they had done that more.
But remember, we did our review of Nemesis, and we pointed out, I think we all agreed that I told anecdotes about LeVar Burton having to tell Stuart Baird that, we got to bring Wesley back. He was part of the crew. What's her name? Marina Sirtis. She basically called Stuart Baird an idiot and said that he didn't know what he was doing. A lot of the fans said that Stuart Baird was terrible in directing these characters because the characters acted out of character. Picard wanting to drive a doom buggy. Although I have to say that Picard wanting to be Dixon Hill throughout the series TNG, that didn't seem in character to me either. But that's another thing. No. But yeah, so that's why I'm not going to give any sway. One other question: why did the synths on Gullion 4 look like their wardrobe came from Risa?
Yeah, I did catch that as well.
Why? Why did they throw in this? Again, it's the same thing with Watchmen. The same issue I had with Watchmen, or the same issue I had with, there was another property that I can't remember. I don't have a problem with depicting LGBTQ relationships, but why not make them make sense and not just seem like they're pandering? Why do we get that shot at the end? First of all, Rios hooking up with Agnes, get the out of here. Now, one of the better written scenes of the finale was 7 of 9, Annika, sitting with Rios and having that conversation after Picard dies. I thought that was a well-written scene. A little heavy-handed, but it was a well-written scene. Those two are basically the same character. They're both kind of like rapscallions. They're both like swashbucklers. They're both that adventurous. I have a painful past, and I am a riskier. I engage in risky ventures as a result of it. Rios, his captain died, and he was there to watch that, and he put his heart into Picard again, and he says, I shouldn't have done that again. Seven, talking about, I assume she was referring to when she was a Borg, and, he couldn't have prevented Picard's death. She feels like, as a Borg, she could have prevented a number of deaths, but she didn't have the power, so she wins out over him. That was a great connection. Why don't those two get together? I could see Agnes getting together with Raffi. But Agnes and Rios? Stop it. Come on. and one other thing I say. All the stuff that they just throw in, and I said this in my review that I put out by myself, that I did my review just by myself. So many things they add into this story that would have made for a great hour or 2-hour arc of a TNG episode. Those orchids, those planet things, those which just came out. Just throw them in there because it's cool. Do you remember the episode? Cool. You remember the episode Silicon Avatar, where this silicon thing, crystal, destroys all planets, and
just throw it out there.
Right, and they go. This is one of my favorite episodes of TNG. They make contact with it, and they find out that the Avatar just doesn't know what it's doing. And they want to make contact with it, right? That's the orchids. You could have done a series based on that alone, not a 10-episode one, but based on that, the orchids come up and kill destroy ships because they're orchid babies or some cherished resources on the planet, and they're protecting it. Okay? You could have built a whole episode around that device that Craig rightfully said was stupid. And they've done that on TNG. Remember Gambit? Where they go find the Stone of Gaul, the psionic Romulan device? That was a great episode. Remember the Tox Utat that introduced Vash? Another device that was the purpose for a whole episode. That was an okay episode, not one of my favorites, but the episode worked. Here, they just throw it in. Okay, you think about what you want to do. And they create this cheap effect of her, I call Agnes Tilly Light, where she makes a whole bunch of faces. And that looks so cheesy. And then somehow she manages to figure out how to make a whole bunch of ships. And you know why they do that? So that they can say, okay, we're even closer to Star Wars now.
Oh man, I'd forgotten about that. That was just absolutely insane.
And that all goes back to Kurtzman.
So, I mean,
yeah. So the enemy is so stupid they don't realize that they just fake ships. Come on.
When you target one of them and the phaser goes right through them,
right.
let's find the real one.
Right. Yeah, that was just ridiculous.
I mean,
I totally forgot about that stupid device did that.
And you know what, guys? If you really want this show, if they really wanted this show to center around a change, a new Picard, as much as I hated that Elnor character who looked like Legolas from Lord of the Rings, or something out of Game of Thrones, that's why they probably did it, threw it in there. Why not make the story about Picard? They do a great setup with Elnor where he's a kid, and Picard is kind of like his father figure. But then they don't address that again at all. That's your story right there. Picard. Remember Generations, a movie I wasn't that big a fan of. He cries because he doesn't have a family. His last family members die in a fire. And so when he goes to the Nexus, what does he dream up? His family. Well, you've created the backstory of a Romulan child who sees himself as a child or son of Picard. There's your f***ing story. That's the story that makes him change, become a new Picard. That's the story I want to see, other than trying to amalgamate all of the TNG elements, including data, so that you can make a story about these new synths and this synth over here on these planets and the synths in the another dimension. Guys, tell a human story. And that's the human story. Picard, at 94 years old, finding out, quote unquote, that he has a son. Not his biological son, but the son that the writers did set up in the first 3 episodes. So I don't know what I don't know what writing classes these guys took, but fundamentally they do not know how to tell a solid story. To them, storytelling is throw everything in there. This is what you have to have in there. Now weave a story between all these points. And that's it.
Yep, I agree.
Granted, I am not a writer, but going back to Riker on the bridge of that ship, and I don't know how plausible this would have been to do, they should have had Worf do that portion. Because if you're going to show down the Romulans, an overweight Riker ain't going to do it. Sorry.
I don't know about that.
You have Worf show up saying, look, you know who I am, and you know what time it is. Stand down.
Well, no.
And they will stand down.
I wouldn't want Worf there because they've already kind of, seeing Riker. I mean, I get you. I get it. Seeing Riker on the bridge was kind of a callback to seeing Riker in that episode where he's making pizza. So I get why they did that. I think it would have been cheap to just have Worf appear out of nowhere without setting it up. But to have Worf on the bridge, that I could see. That would have been nice. Or to have Geordi, the chief engineer, on the bridge. But it wasn't meant to be. So, all right. Any other thoughts on the finale? Any other thoughts on the series as a whole? I personally thought it was a wasted... Well, let me back up. Okay, I'll put it this way. If you're going to have an 80-year-old actor lead a series, if you find a way around that, which I don't think they did successfully, but if you're going to do it, right, I think they wasted an opportunity to play to Patrick Stewart's strengths in his advanced age. Okay, this series should not have been called Star Trek Picard. It should have been called something else, guest starring Patrick Stewart, and that's really all it was to me.
I don't know, because I do agree with his current, and again, I don't know Patrick Stewart, but he just looks too frail.
Exactly.
To be doing this. Now, I'm not saying he can't, lead from, like Professor X does. He's not out in the field. He's back at, the manor doing what he needs to do. I don't think he needs to be running around like this. I really don't. Because he can't hold up. Now, if they have set something up for next season, now that he's in the synthetic body where he can do stuff, and that gives the what's the word I'm looking for? The special effects guys free reign to do things with him, fine. But he's just, and I love the actor, but this may be too much for him physically.
Well, and Craig, I want you to chime in with your final thoughts. But it's funny. I laughed when you said that, Big Sexy, because what sense does it make to? I mean, if it were me, I'd be like, "What the f*** is wrong with you?" So let me get this straight. I was 94 years old, so I probably only had at best maybe 10 years, 6 years left. You put me in a synth body at 94 years old? What's the matter with you? And they make a point to say you don't have any powers, and you're still going to die when you would have died normally. So basically, Alton Noonien Singh, yet another Singh who we've never heard of, but they just threw in there. Oh, I'm sorry, Sung.
I thought that was Laura when I first saw him. I'm like, uh-oh.
Well, why would he was creating that body for himself? So he goes through all this trouble. Now, I don't have a problem with him being self-sacrificing. But if you create this body, why wouldn't you give it and you're going to sacrifice putting yourself in there for the greater good of Picard, why not make the body last another 30 years instead of saying, nah, we want you to die when you're going to die regularly, which is probably 2 years.
2 weeks.
Craig, what were you going to say?
No, you're absolutely right about that. And but of course, the Picard character says, "I would have enjoyed another 20 years." So even he is like, "Hey guys, come on, thanks, but no thanks."
It's like in the dialogue, it's almost like they write things that troll themselves. Like that,
Right.
To me, they wrote that to say this is stupid that he's putting them in a body that's going to die at the same time. And then and there's another scene that I used in my other review where Rios is trying to fix the ship with that device. And I know he says, "Ay caramba," and Rafi says, "What's going on?" And then Rios gets up and says, "Nothing that makes any sense." I'm like, you guys can't write that and not know what you're saying, not know the irony of that. They can't be writing that and not know that they're trolling. You know what I'm saying? Or gaslighting, whatever the term is. But,
No, you're right. Absolutely. It didn't make any sense. They understand that.
But, okay, does anyone else have anything else to report? Anything else?
Nothing
It
from
could
our
have
side.
been better. I don't think it was Discovery level bad, but Discovery has a lot more handcuffs placed on it too, though.
Okay.
And that's not fair.
Okay.
You know, because as we've talked about, Discovery's got a lot of limitations on what they can and can't use.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're talking about it being a prequel.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And they don't have these limitations on the show, but they still have the one thing in common: Kurtzman, who sucks balls.
Wow.
You know, get rid of him. Somebody call up Rick Berman and see what's going on.
Or even better, Nicholas Meyer.
Make the calls, man. Let's go.
Craig.
I don't know who
Oh,
Kurtzman
sorry.
is blowing. That's right, I said it.
Wow.
But he needs to get out of there, man. He's not the person. He doesn't have the vision to steward this franchise going forward. He doesn't.
He doesn't have the vision to know how to tell a story. It's as simple as that to
No.
me. Craig, you were going to say something?
I agree with Mark that we need to get Nick Meyer back. He was great for the show. Rick Berman, great. Please, let's do that.
Well, now I will watch, based on the strength of of Patrick Stewart alone, because he's still a good actor. Just I don't think this is the right vehicle, but out of respect, I'm going to watch the first few episodes of season 2, because they threw so much into season 1. We got Borg, we got Riker, we got Troy, we got Data, we got all the synth stuff, we got all that mythology, we got Romulans, right? What's left to tell?
And when did 7 of 9 meet Picard?
When did she meet? When did they meet each other? Well, that's a good question. I just assume that, if you have a Borg on your crew when you come back from the Delta Quadrant, it's going to make the news. And they're both Starfleet. Well, she wasn't formally Starfleet, but I'm sure
she wasn't.
She was taken under Starfleet's wing, I'm sure.
And again, whoever wrote this doesn't know that character.
How so?
She's not. When she took out the Romulan chick.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been waiting all my life for this. Ugh! Come on, man.
That was a really stupid death, wasn't it? It was like so anticlimactic. That's another character. What was the point of that character? And in the episode prior to the part 2, we saw her being attacked like by the XBs, like they were zombies eating her. Then she just shows up in the next episode.
Yeah, and since we don't know when she met Picard, we damn sure don't know when she met Hugh to have this type of relationship.
That I can forgive because a lot of time has passed. Like I say, there's some things that do make sense. I could see Picard reading up on 7 just out of any kind of Federation database or Starfleet database. And it's not like they know each other, but he's like, oh, I know who that is. 7 of 9. Now, it would have been great for him to say, nice to meet you, or something like that, or...
Exactly. Just give me that.
And there's another story, 7 of 9. She could have her own series. How did she get to where she's not that Data-like you know, how, when she was on Voyager, she spoke with no emotion. Like, she didn't have any emotion, right? But now in this series, which is cool, she's a fully realized emotional human being. She gets angry, she's soft, she's nice, she's forward, she drinks, you know, she's got long hair, she has a personality. How does she get to that point? Where did she get her fighting skills from? They don't bother to. She's a Fenris Ranger. What are those? All this stuff they throw in with no explanation that could make this. You could do another 5 seasons with the stuff they threw into this one season. Kind of like when Discovery threw in the Mirror Universe in season 1 before dealing with all the stuff they'd already set up. And it goes back to they don't know how to tell a story. Now I'm repeating myself, so I'm going to stop. But all right, wow. So I'm giving the series a thumbs down. If you had to choose thumbs up or thumbs down, what do you got, guys?
Thumbs in the middle.
Oh, see.
Sorry.
Greg?
I'm not going to cheat and say it's the middle, but I would say it is a thumbs down, but I'm still going to watch the next season.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I want to see where they're going to take it. All right. And if there's no other business to discuss...
Are we done with the Kelvin universe and making those bad films?
I hope so.
Well, there's no Star Trek 4, as I understand. But all right, and there you have it, folks. That's our review. Let us know what you think. I know we're putting out uneven. We're being a little uneven with our broadcasts, but you know, we're in different times now. We have other things that we are worrying about, as you well know. That's why I'm going to put both of these episodes, you know, I'm going to put this one out. I'm going to edit it, and I'll put it out by tomorrow. And you can also go and check out the one I put out yesterday. So while you're sitting at home and you're tired of looking at the news, you'll have at least 2.5 hours, well, an hour and a half of content, Red Shirts content to listen to. All right, everybody, stay well.
Bye.
Humbug.
Red Shirts is not endorsed by Paramount Pictures, Viacom, or CBS. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. Star Trek, the Star Trek logo, and all names, pictures, and audio of Star Trek characters are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and/or copyright holders.